When you see the Panama Canal in person for the first time, it can be a little bit overwhelming. Generating over $8 billion a year for the country, it's really crazy when you see the first big freightliner coming up the canal. And our tour kicks off right next to it here in Gamboa. I'll admit right from the beginning that I did not have our first location being an ammunition factory on my bingo card. But that's where we are. This location is called Ammo Dump Ponds, and it's legit with some good birds. This lesser kiskadee was the first bird that got our attention, but it wasn't long after when all of the colorful birds started showing up. And that included this collared aracari, one of my favorite birds from last year in Ecuador, a quirky bird with a lot of personality. It was good to see him again here in Panama. This rufescent tiger heron was a little difficult to see in the breezy grasses, but eventually it obliged us and jumped up to this nice perch on the tree. And with some patience, it finally gave us a good look at its back to see those stripes. And there was one nesting nearby as well that we later found. With a light sprinkle of rain and the sound of commerce in the air, I was advised that I probably shouldn't go in here to seek refuge, as it was full of bats. And it also looked like something out of a horror movie, so I never would have gone in there. We continued our walk nearing the pipeline road and then came across what I think was everyone's favorite bird of the morning, this white-whiskered puffbird.
It looked up there and turned his head this way, and it just showed everything. Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Although this velvety mannequin was right up there for me that morning too, stills only on this one. The bird held still for about 2 seconds. As the sun got a little bit higher overhead, the bird activity really started to go down, but we did find one last thing up here on this cliffside back in the trees. It was our first motmot of the trip, and I was having a really difficult time finding a good angle to try to shoot it. I was having focusing issues on one side of the bird, and then on the other side there were still branches in the way, and as I had my head buried in the camera trying to find a different angle, disaster nearly struck. One bad misstep and I almost ended up falling down this sort of cliffside. You see way down there? I think I would have ended up there eventually after a few rolls and bounces, so pro tip to photographers, remember, always be aware of your surroundings and don't get lost with your head buried in the camera like I almost did. After some lunch and a little downtime, we're back out in the afternoon here at the Gamboa Rainforest Reserve. Right out of the van, a call overhead is this slate-colored seed eater, but notice the female pictured here isn't actually slate-colored. Also, right above our heads on this mossy power line was our first trogon of the trip in this slaty tail. As we moved along through the reserve, I realized that the signs here don't lie. But sometimes it's not the crossing you'd expect.
This is all green.
Yep, you saw that. Thank you.
We pressed further on into the reserve, and that's when our guide asked us what our appetite was for going off trail. We were all down, and after going down a pretty janky staircase deeper into the jungle, we were down here looking for a special kingfisher. After some quick playback by our guide, we heard it call back, and it was close by, so we moved in to try to find it. We located the kingfisher, and our guide told us to remain still and to try to be quiet, as this bird usually flees at the sight of humans. As you can see, we got some pretty good looks, and it was awesome. What was not awesome was the next bird we tried to photograph. This jet antbird wasn't giving us the time of day. It kept hiding deep in the trees. Humorously, at the same time and in the same tree, this velvety mannequin was giving us great looks. But we were like, yeah, we see you. We're really focused on the antbird here. I was finally able to get a decent look in these final couple of clips. We all agreed if it were appropriate to put on the eBird list, the note would have been, was a complete a-hole to us. As we wrapped up our walk for the afternoon, our guide told us that he had one last surprise in store for us. After he set up his scope to take a look, I certainly was not expecting this. These Panamanian night monkeys can only be found here in Panama and then a small part of Colombia, and those large eyes are what help them see at night when they're most active. And that marked the end on a very successful first day of the tour. The next morning, we're up again early, and I do my usual routine where I beeline straight for the coffee.
Morning, Scott.
Good morning.
And if you want to know why the pipeline road here in Panama is such a big deal to birders, consider this food for thought. On their most recent Christmas bird count, they clocked in with 314 species. And we're here at the Rainforest Discovery Center to climb this. And just as expected, boy, what a view. The birds up here, however, were not being very active this morning. We did have our only pelican sighting of the trip, and these brown pelicans way out there. But we did end up seeing the target bird for the tower, which was this distant blue Katinga. Fortunately, back down on the ground, the action really picked up for us. My sketchy cliffside mott was back, and well, the group hadn't forgot about the incident.
The one we saw at the hill. It's like we almost lost Scott.
As we walked along further, all of a sudden our guide perked up, and we knew what that meant. It meant it was time to go off trail back into the jungle. And as always, it was worth it. And the big find on the day is this bicolored antbird who didn't seem to mind our presence at all.
You see the light?
Getting him, Scott.
Follow the light?
For the sake of it.
Oh, yeah.
That wasn't the only antbird back here.
White collar coming close.
We eventually emerged out of the jungle back onto the trail and then made our way down to the second location of the morning, which is here, the Discovery Hummingbird Garden. And these white-necked jacobin are the most prominent species here, by far.
Nice one.
Of course, I couldn't turn down the opportunity to hand feed one of the hummingbirds.
That is so bizarre.
And we did eventually see another species in this violet-bellied. But then, I heard a bit of commotion further down the balcony, and it turned out someone else had shown up and was crashing the hummingbird party. And it was all for this Rufus Mott-Mott, a new one for us on the tour, and when he jumped up to this perch, the photographers in the group, well, we were smitten.
Oh my God, what a shot. That's the fruit crow.
And then after picking up a few more common woodpeckers and wood creepers, another stunner showed up.
Go ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
It was a great way to end the morning, and we as a group decided that this was our first top spot, which is an award that we kind of just made up. For our last Pipeline Road session, we're all the way at the end of it, where cars aren't even allowed. It's hiking in only from here. And within a few minutes of our walk, our guide Jacob was already back in the jungle trying to find us another miracle bird. He motioned for us all to come in because, of course, he found it. The deep jungle bushwhack was all to see this little guy. With my camera settings turned up to 11, deep in the Panamanian jungle, this would be our only Aunt Peta sighting for the entire trip. Back out on the pipeline, we pressed on further to see if the jungle held any more secrets. This section of the pipeline was teeming with birds this afternoon. We were getting wood creepers, new tanagers, and even this new cinnamon picard.
Got it.
But of course, our guide Jacob pulled another rabbit out of his hat. Just off to the side of the road was this. It was tough to shoot as he moved across the ground going in between the bushes, but what an awesome encounter. With the light getting low, I would not use that. I decided that I could probably hold going to the bathroom until we got back to the lodge, but then this dream scenario unfolded. And then, about 2 trees down, there was this. It is just unreal. Needless to say, I think we all thought that the Pipeline Road had fully delivered. It turned out we weren't done for the day yet. As we were driving down the freeway, the driver pulled over, Jacob got out, and started looking up this hill. And I didn't see anything until I pointed my camera and saw this. This great patoo camouflaged in so well, I wasn't sure how anybody had ever seen it before. Jacob had asked us not to eBird the location, so that's why it's a little vague here at the end, but it was another awesome ending to a great day. Coming up in episode 2, we're wheels up to the west to David. I get to pet a very good boy.
Hi. Hello.
We see some baby chickens. And then we get one of the pinnacle species of the entire tour.